Whoops, sorry about that. I was still off the cell signal. When I'm home, I turn the LTE off, which I don't know if that turns off the 5G or the 4G, but I'm working with the router. But anyway, Grand Rising. So tonight I've got Joe Phipps on the show. And we're going to be getting into a conversation that's based on my prior video about Ozzy. And so I've been meditating on that a lot lately. I may refine a great deal of what I said in that stream upon deeper thought of a better conveyance of what I'm reaching for, right? Because when because like many of these core things that I'm inspired to say, I'm reaching from a very, very deep spot. I have I have Pluto and Libra, right? So when I'm digging deep, when I'm investigating, it is in a judicious manner. And weighing them against the heart. This is part of the reason why I honor Anubis. So, more so than a lot of artists that I listen to more than Ozzy. Have I been emotionally, like, I could go back and listen to a lot of Children of Bodom and not swell up so, right? There aren't the same level of things I honestly would love as particular memories beyond the music itself. I think I got to see him perform. Oh dear God. Honestly, I think the only time I ever saw him perform was once. I think that was like with Megadeth on Gigantor. God, I think that's the only fucking time. And I think this was one of the fucking shows that he couldn't play like full tilt because his back was injured, right? Like he died before the Needlecraft. He died during the pandemic itself, and I just sat there, and after he died, my heart said it was the end of the party that killed him. Okay, like what I mean is that, well, I don't know what drugs he's on, if any, but he obviously is an amazing adrenal junkie. He likes to do, all of his performing at a high octane level because that matches the energy he needs to perform technically on the guitar, right? And imagine if you've built your heart to not go under 85 miles an hour. And then all of a sudden, it is against the law to get excited, right? Because the pandemic would have killed every avenue for an obediently positioned person in that level, which to some extent all of us had to deal with the familial attachments of our time, the people we had to work with, the people we had to live with, the people that we just had to have physical contact with. And then there was, of course, the problem of the vernacular, as everyone around you was talking in pandemic lockdown parlance code. Right? It's just like this psychic shock of the abrupt end of what has been a non-stop party since the summer of '67, when the hippie movement launched. It never fucking stopped. Ozzy wrote a song called I Don't Wanna Stop. Ozzy was a hippie. He was a hippie, but back then being a hippie was a broad meaning term. And almost every hippie I fucking know loved Jesus. He was a Jesus hippie that was also, as a personal preference, into the macabre, into horror, into the shadows, into theatrics, just into things that you tell, if you just tell a Christian he's into horror, right? Well, some horror serves Christianity because it does a great job at pitching the fire and the brimstone, right? So that's why I'm excited for the conversation with Joe, because, like, as harsh as I am about the whole Jesus Christ thing, and the Bible, and the Gospels, and New Testament, I'm angry because I always feel like there is that taint between the purity of the Atman being sought in the character they call Jesus Christ in the Gospels and the story of the New Testament. Because of the troubles of history and what it means to worship a mortal man, what it means to even fucking call a mortal man super special because we can call him a fucking prophet. You know? Look at the fucking Pope today. How do we know that these people had good standards of what is a prophet? Considering Jesus came about, like, within a few fucking years of the destruction of the fucking temple, your society already has a pretty shit idea of what's going on. A really shit idea. And anybody could fucking grift on people with a fractured mind. Because all they have to do is get half of the fucking congregation on their side. And now all of a sudden you don't even realize that you can't call yourself religiously a Jew anymore. Right? Or something like this. And there's just something not good about invoking Jesus. That's just, I see it. Because we'd be failing a lot less and needing an existential savior a lot less if we found the Christos principle within. And if we think it looks like what feels like gospel Jesus, we've failed that test. Hey, what's up, Derek? So, I saw a headline on a video that I wanted to respond to. Just the headline. Sometimes the headlines give me enough of the meta psyche to know what I want to talk about because of a deep answer I discovered long ago that I need to fucking articulate. As I almost want to believe that by 2016 I had found all the answers in my heart and I know how to fucking talk. Even though I knew how to fucking talk and was ranting like a motherfucker on the radio. Chronic breath, I love it. Anyway, so I made this point. I'm in Thomas Sheridan's crack house on Telegram, and I was just commenting because I was listening to some of the comments. A lot of people were only like wanting to talk about people that were like sucking up to the Osbourne family since he died, right? And I find it interesting that they're all like, but I'm not hearing as much of anybody else's personal accolades, and I do see them in there. But it was there was just so much that was on the critical side. I wasn't being critical of Ozzy, but like everybody's hyper focused on the bleh of the media because they're trying to look at the media to figure out how to fucking undo the puzzle box of the horror show going on in their world, right? America's ahead of the curve because of partial victories. But here's my point, because that's another conversation. Ozzy was a Dionysian character, which, like the party of heavy metal was established by Ozzy, who was the master performer of being the central point of excitement, right? Any fucking possible way that a metal person is to work a fucking crowd, Ozzy has done in some capacity. Being the Dreadlord, being the Wild Man, which is, well, like, Dreadlord is this Black Sabbath style performances, his macabre performances. The Wild Man is his fucking, like, his speed metal. Ozzy, solo without, but not the ballads, right? Because Ozzy's got his ballads. And then, of course, he's got his in-between, because he went and he slowed down a lot more after No More Tears. Still had the edge. Like, for me, like, the last Ozzy album that really fucking moved me as, like, still, an album built with a purpose was Osmosis. Everything after that, I think, was just for fun. I think it was just for fun because Ozzy had established everything else. I think he didn't need to ever fucking worry about a goddamn thing ever again, because he had found so much public acceptance. The producers or whatever, like heavy metal had found its place in culture, right? Living in this thing, and we're grateful for it because it's just like, when you think about what music emerges that really draws a fucking crowd in the independent scene outside of just dance party music, right? Every culture's got their genre of dance music. We're not dance music. We're all about, like, there's a whole lot of fucking like real time, like, crowd participant theater going on, right? It's a crowd participatory event, either way, because of how everybody ropes everybody into the motion, It's just like the song's coming on, the guy to your right and the guy to your left are in the vibe check, all of a sudden you've locked arms and you're doing a triage headbanging, keeping each other from fucking dizzying out, doing fucking headbangs and helicopters, shoulder to fucking shoulder, right? You know, not a word spoken. You haven't even fucking met each other yet, but now you're fucking, now, it's almost like shield wall, but lower your defenses. It's ridiculous. But it's a fucking, but it's a killer vibe, right? And it's it's just like you can forget that you may have 99% differences with a person. It's just like, oh, he loves this fucking riff authentically. He fucking destroys his fucking body authentically for this song. I gotta get in with this guy, right? And that's that infectious fucking vibe. I have that vibe. When I'm fucking at a show, and I've activated my full fucking energy level, like that happens. That's Ozzy from start to finish on fucking stage, right? That's why he did so much fucking cocaine, because he hadn't found the internal soul ignition. And he probably figured out a long ass time ago the kind of Christian he wanted to be. Right? That would not be far off from my idea of a Christian to want to be. I'm sure I'd be a different person in the home. But then again, I didn't riddle myself with all sorts of fucking neurological drugs. Only the sweet healing of Mary Jane and the strange lands of the Mushroom King. So, he was our Dionysian Dark Lord. And, he was the god of the heavy metal party, of the first heavy metal party. He's the Pope, the Emperor of Metal. That just he is the isness of metal. So if you're a fucking metalhead, there's no fucking dispute of the bottom line of the heart of metal at Ozzy. Right? And you just have to understand that, right? That was part of his mission, and there's something within the metal mission for everyone who gets into metal, right? It's the art, but it's the activist, right? It has to. You don't just. There's something that's really bothering you that has to get out on a violent, or terrifying level, or a maddening level, to particularly ask for that song, that sound. When in 1992, I discovered metal with Metallica's Black Album as a 12-year-old. And I was like a born-again Christian and a Catholic because of my family at that time. And so I had to rationalize what I thought I was listening to, because I was Catholic because of my family, but I hated Catholicism as a child, so I found a friend and discovered that there's other churches, and that whole thing worked way better for me, right? There was something deeply spiritual I was looking for as a kid. A lot of kids are, not like that, right? Now I look at my natal chart and I understand exactly why I was fucking like that. The Jupiter placements, the way that they were, made me looking for that. And like if I had stayed, like if I had been, if the Catholic religion hadn't fucking divorced itself from mystery, I might have been enticed under the right circumstances. I mean, because if it had the mystery, it would be a different relationship with pastors and nuns and things like that if the mystery was still there. And I think if the mystery was still there, that would have fueled me, right? Part of the reason why paganism works is just like because children, it's cliche, children are inherently pagan, right? But this is the point of the freedom, right? When you're a kid and, you haven't been given, your life hasn't been ruined by the word of the gospel plus right-wing fascism or left-wing madness. Before your life is ruined by Thoth's Book of Twisted Lies, you've got superheroes, you got all these fucking things, and you're exploring and trying to understand things and figure them out, and your parents never looked at those things with interest and were told that there's something wrong with a child who's interested in these things, because they destroyed everything that matters for being interested in those things, right? If your child is into the macabre, maybe give them an anatomy book. I don't know, something. There is something to be all for in this circumstance. Right? Because unless you're getting very troubling fucking intentions spoken from the child, and then it's and you got to work really hard to know what you would do under certain circumstances. All right, so I need to put myself together. I'm trying to kick off today a pinch early to help out the guys who are trying to handle things a pinch early, because we're coordinating with a second work team to finish this job for the next 2 days. So we're trying to make things easier for them. So, long story short is, that Ozzy at a certain point, most particularly I think in the mid-90s, decided to cross over as an emissary of the metal world into the media machine, because metal had to do the same kind of thing that the better intention of the new Republicans out there had to do. They had to really change up their act and get into acceptance as the way they saw things, being scared to accept anarchy. Right? Because, the liberals will just say, oh my God, the corporations will become bigger than the government, and then the government will work for the corporations. Yeah, we're already here, and Which is why you don't understand what's going on. It's one thing to not be the winning opinion. It's quite another thing to also have lost because you're wrong. Quite another. But my point is that Ozzy made a deal, and through his goodwill was trusted to be a kingmaker. And then Ozfest was created. And so Ozfest, which may or may not have been Sharon's brainchild, went on to establish Ozzy as the kind of person who used himself to elevate others. Because at that point, he had become a bona fide old man that was still absolutely fucking incredible on every fucking level in his ability to fucking perform, regardless of whether you thought any newly written material was not necessarily the most deeply inspiring masterpiece that one could have asked for, going back to anything that wasn't the Randy Rhoads or Zakk Wylde era. And, for the record, I do like, I forget which album it is, but the one with Gus G after Zakk was, the one right after Zakk was fired. I do really like that one. Just because it's also, that opinion comes from later Zakk, right? Like, I'm not the biggest fan of how Zakk's style is, especially compared to Randy and others, because, Zakk doesn't fly on the guitar the way the other guys do. He's much more of a he's a riffier dude. He's a riffier person. Now that's cool though, because that's a lot of testosterone and bravado. So that's really good, because Randy Rhoads was like this pencil on stage. It's like this small thin ass fucking guy, lean cuisine all the way. Hey, Telling Stewart. So yeah, so the question is going to have, that I'm going to be talking about with Joe the most, is the flip of the script, right? Why are there churches that would hope that he is a Christian, right? This means the churches are interested in saying he is in heaven, meaning that they're interested in trying to explain that as Christians we're not actually against a lot of this. I mean, you don't hear Christians complaining every day about every fucking horror film made, right? But anyway, I'll catch you guys later.